With many years of paranormal investigating under our belt, there has been some amazing evidence collected from some amazing locations. Many of these locations have not been featured in any video from 4State Paranormal, nor do all of our investigations make it to haunting history. We are opening the vault and bringing you inside some of our most memorable investigations and telling you our story firsthand. So take a trip with us as we explore our haunted past. The asylum in Chetopa, Kansas was a former nursing home. Nothing bad really happened there. I'm sure there were some people that passed away there. Like any nursing home, that happens. But there wasn't really anything rumored bad to have happened. I think it was 2009, somewhere around there, 2010, something like that, that we were just kind of looking around and this place happened to come up. We talked to Chris McGowan, who was the owner of the Asylum, which is a haunted house attraction that he had run out of the old building that was the nursing home. So it became known as the Asylum in Chetopa, Kansas. We met the actors that worked in the Asylum. A lot of them had experiences of hearing voices, seeing shadows, and things of that nature. So naturally, we wanted to investigate. I think the first time I was there was with Gene, Mike, and myself, and one other investigator. And we had some really cool experiences. Even had some stuff that happened that we caught on our DVR system. Problem is, for the first time ever, it's the only time it's ever happened, the hard drive on the DVR crashed, and we lost everything. We had video of cords being moved on the floor. We didn't see what was moving them. We had a lot of stuff that happened that night. We ended up going back. One of the first times we were back there, it was John, Barry, myself, and Jeremy Boyd, and also I think Stephen Walker was there. I'm not too sure. I can't remember that. But there was an incident where I was on the computer. I was watching the DVR and working on some stuff on the computer, like analyzing some evidence, while everybody was off investigating.
We're in the room where the baby bed was. It was Barry, Jeremy, and myself. We're in there. Of course, Jeremy's battery went dead in his camera, and he was going to go back and get a new battery. So that left me and Barry in there. We were recording, and we asked a question about if the little girl would like to meet Dave. And of course, later during review of the recorder, we picked up a little girl's voice saying that she would like to meet Dave.
They caught what sounds like a female voice saying, "Of course I would. Where is he?" Or something like that. Later on another investigation, we had this one night that was absolutely amazing, where we were watching items being moved. There was one room in the asylum where they had dolls hanging from the ceilings, and the dolls would move. Not all of them, just certain ones. We even got it to actually do it on command a couple times. You'd get the feeling of uneasiness in some of these rooms, but some of the more peculiar things that happened that night kind of happened around John.
We were setting up in the lounge area where people would come and relax and everything and get drinks. And we took and had all the equipment set up, and of course Dave, Jeremy, and all them were gone. They were in the asylum in another part. All of a sudden, heard this noise and something come running in front of all the equipment. Scared the living crap out of me. And it was just amazing, that it just ran right in front of me, and I couldn't see it, but I could hear it, and that was just fantastic.
So while we were out setting up cameras, Jeremy and we were on the east wing, on the far side of the building away from our base camp. And I'm setting up this camera, and Jeremy said he had to go back to get something. And I'm sitting there setting this camera, and I'm like, well, how's this look? And I hear, that looks good. And I think Jeremy's right there, and I'm like, okay, so I got to start talking to him again. But Jeremy had already left. Jeremy wasn't even on that side of the building at that point. For whatever reason, I wasn't recording because we're still setting up, which is a big mistake. For any investigator out there, record once you get there, because some of your best evidence seems to happen right when you get there. But I hear this voice that says, that looks good, and it sounded like Jeremy. I thought it was Jeremy. I tried radio back to the base. When I did, John told me Jeremy wasn't there, and then shortly after, Jeremy just walked into base, so he let me know that Jeremy was there. And I mean, it was loud and clear, the voice.
We were in a small room, and I think it was like the book room or something. I can't remember what they called it. It's been quite a few years since we've been there. And it was myself, Jeremy, and Dave. Dave was running the camera, and we were filming.
And I was fixated on this fireplace mantle because there was John put up a ghost meter on this fireplace mantle, and it, of course, was going off. But something peculiar happened with that.
Okay, so you're
battery's
not
drained.
necessarily
Went from 11 minutes down to flashing.
So you're not necessarily a little girl. You're a young woman. Is that correct?
Just move again, John. Move again, like you just did.
She's gone.
Well, something moved right in front of this desk right here. Just blocked out light reflecting on it.
Huh.
As I'm filming this meter and filming this fireplace mantle, the reflection from the IR light is bouncing off of the mantle. And at one point, you see this shadow block out the light and go back. And then shortly after that leaves, if you notice the ghost meter, it stops. It stops picking up any kind of EMF or whatever it picks up. Which is really peculiar that it happened almost as soon as the shadow disappeared.
Okay, so you're
battery's
not
drained.
necessarily
Went from 11 minutes down to flashing.
So you're not necessarily a little girl. You're a young woman. Is that correct?
Just move again, John. Move again, like you just did. We tried an experiment for the first time at the asylum. The experiment is what we called phoning the dead. It's basically a phone-in EVP session. Somebody that's not there at that location calls in, and we put them on speakerphone. We set the phone down in a room with a recorder, and we leave the area. Sometimes we leave the building. But this was the first time we ever did this, and we actually had some interesting things come up through the recording, and the person over the phone claimed that they heard a lot of static and heard some things. But when we reviewed the audio, we actually captured some pretty interesting stuff. One of which was a voice that came through some of the static that happened to say Indiana. Why anybody would say Indiana is beyond me. It was just weird. And since this time, we've been doing this experiment pretty much at every location.
Do you know you're dead? That you have passed away? We want to know if you passed away because someone killed you or just because of natural causes.
The last EVP that I'm going to show you guys real quick is one that happened while we were setting up. We were actually setting up the ion generator, and you can hear some bags being zipped up and whatnot. But you hear a voice that comes over this audio that says something like "break it." So here's this.
Wait. Oh, never mind. You might not have a switch. Wait. Oh, never mind. You might not have a switch.
Throughout our time at the asylum, we picked up a lot of really amazing things. We've heard a lot of good EVPs and had some awesome experiences. Things from hearing women yelling, screaming, to John's footsteps running in front of him, to capturing that shadow. Unfortunately, after some time, the asylum ended up catching fire, had an electrical fire, and it burned to the ground. So it's no longer standing.
Well, during some of the times that we were there, we would help do some stuff. So I dressed up as a fireman in a fire suit, and they threw blood all over me. And I was hiding in this one door. This was the first time we ever helped them out. And I was hiding behind this door, and this old woman opened the door, and I scared her so bad, we thought she was going to have a heart attack.
It really is a shame that the asylum burned down. It was one of my favorite places to go. But with time, everything heals, and we move on, and we find new places. I can't say the same for the spirits that may have been there at the asylum, whether or not they've moved on or if they're stuck at that property. It's unknown at this time.